What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indies Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice week. Thursday, geez, this week is just flown by, which isn't a bad thing. That's a good thing because I don't know about you. I'm ready for Friday night. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready for this great college football slate. I'm ready for the NFL games on Sunday. I'm just ready for everything that the weekend has to offer. And we're all looking forward to Sunday because the Indianapolis Colts, our Indianapolis Colts, they take on the Miami Dolphins, which should be an incredibly winnable game. But it's the NFL, and just because a game is winnable doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win it. That's just, the reality of, the NFL, and that's just kind of how things work. Like the other guys, they're getting paid too. And as I was thinking about NFL football games and just the way that they work, every game has a theme, right? Every game has a theme. And so I started thinking about themes, and I started thinking about movies and books. I'm reading a great book right now called Agent in Place, spy thriller. So freaking good. Okay, it's kind of a problem because I stay up way too late at night reading it, but that's beside the point. And look, I love movies. I love books. Okay, I think one of the best experiences anyone can have is just going to a movie by yourself with no one there to bother you. And, I love reading books and articles and really anything with a good story, I'm in. Let's go. Right? But whether or not I'm interested is usually dependent upon the title and the cover, right? If it's a book, like I want to see the cover of a book because the whole don't judge a book by its cover thing. Like, yes, don't judge people based on their appearance, but when it comes to books, I don't really get it because the cover is designed to grab your attention. And so, it's there literally for you to judge it. But hey, that's neither here nor there. The title as well is there to help you decipher whether or not you want to watch the movie or read the book or read the article. Titles are important, and they often indicate what the theme is of the story that you're about to read or the movie that you're about to watch. So I'm going to start a new segment today, okay, where I'm going to start titling the Colts and Indiana football games before they happen. And it's just a simple way to project what I think the theme of the game or what we're going to talk about after the game is going to be about. Okay, because titles are cool. I like titling things. It's fun. And this Colts and Dolphins game is intriguing, right? Because the Colts opened as 3.5-point favorites. That felt low, and the line has only moved down. As of last night, the Colts were favored by 3 points, right? So it's moved down 0.5 point, which is even more intriguing because if you've seen the Dolphins play at all this year, with Tua, without Tua especially, they are awful. They're terrible. Okay, there's no way around it. But if you've watched the Dolphins and if you've watched the Colts, there's one thing that they have in common, to say the least. And because of that, it made creating the title of this Colts versus Dolphins game incredibly simple. Okay, so the title that I've come up with is Colts versus Dolphins, the battle of explosive plays. In a stadium not that far away from where I'm at here in Northeast Indianapolis, 3 days from now, the 3-3 Indianapolis Colts will host the 2-3 Miami Dolphins in what is a huge game for both teams at Lucas Oil Stadium here in Indianapolis. The Colts are going to be trying to get over the 500 mark for the first time this season after starting 0-2, while the Miami Dolphins will look to keep their playoff hopes alive by avoiding the dreadful fall to a 2-4 record. Both teams have questions at the quarterback position. For the Indianapolis Colts, will Anthony Richardson play? Will Joe Flacco play? Based off of practice yesterday, all signs point to Anthony Richardson, but he sat out last week after appearing to be healthy, so who knows what the Colts will do this week. The Miami Dolphins, on the other hand, they know they're going to play Tyler Huntley. who they signed off of a practice squad to replace Skylar Thompson as Tua's backup. The question for him is if he'll be good, because he's been nothing short of awful so far. Nothing short of awful, no matter who plays quarterback for the Colts. And no matter how well Tyler Huntley plays for the Dolphins, this battle between two teams hoping to keep their playoff hopes alive will come down to one thing and one thing only. Explosive plays are going to determine the outcome of this game. The Miami Dolphins have more speed than a drug dealer in Miami. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle lead the charge when it comes to the speed and explosiveness in this Dolphins offense. One screen pass can lead to 6 in a hurry. On the other side of the football, the Colts come about explosive plays a little bit differently. Alec Pierce gets open downfield as well as any other receiver in the NFL. Josh Downs can make plays after the catch when given the opportunity, while Michael Pittman Jr. works the middle of the field as a big-bodied receiver. In addition to the explosiveness of the passing game for the Colts, they're also pretty explosive in the run game with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, 6'4", 245 pounds with a 4.4 40, running downhill. Just don't touch his hip, please. That's our one request, Miami. Do not touch Anthony Richardson's hip. Okay, whichever team can generate the most explosive plays seems destined to win this football game on Sunday that has major playoff implications, because neither team is going to have consistent quarterback play needed to generate long scoring drives. That is what this football game is going to come down to. We've seen Anthony Richardson play quarterback this year. Okay, you and I both have. And let's be honest, it's been just as advertised. Some highs, some lows. Okay, it seemed like we were going to get a whole bunch of highs against the Steelers, because that Steelers game, the 2 drives that we saw from him, it's the first time that we've seen him put together back-to-back successful drives that legitimately looked good. Sadly, he got hurt, and we didn't see him anymore the rest of that day, right? Joe Flacco came in. He stole a whole bunch of people's hearts despite not playing that well, right? That's what happened. And when it comes to Anthony Richardson, hopefully, right, because I think we all expect him to play. I've got audio of him talking here in a bit. But I think, we all expect him to play, but we all expected him to play last week, and that didn't happen. Okay? So when it comes to Anthony Richardson, he has to be consistent, and I just don't know if he's going to be that in this first game back, right, after missing 2 games, right? Because playing quarterback, playing really any sport, any sport, football, basketball, baseball, there's an element of rhythm that's needed. And I just think it's hard to have that after, you've missed 2.5 games, right? Practice can help you find your rhythm and those things, but you really don't find it until you get into the game. Okay. And he had that rhythm against the Steelers. And now, he hadn't played in 2.5 games. So I don't think he's going to come out clicking. He might find that rhythm for short stretches here and there, right? But what he was doing against the Steelers was insane before he got hurt. And I don't think we'll see him play at that high of a level on Sunday, right? The Colts are going to rely on Anthony Richardson to do something that he's actually done a fairly decent amount in the games that we've seen him, and that's generate big plays on both the ground and through the air in order to score points on Sunday. Okay, when we look back at the game last week, Colts against the Titans, all 4 of the possessions that the Colts scored on were 10 plays or more. And that speaks to the consistency of Joe Flacco, right? His ability to convert 3rd and 3, right? His ability, to be accurate and just kind of keep the chains moving. That is not Anthony Richardson. That is not his strength. Okay, so this week, when the Colts score, it's going to be on 5-play drives where Anthony Richardson connects, on a 40-yard pass, and then he rips off a 20-yard run. Okay, that is much more of what the offense is going to look like, and that's what the Colts are going to need from him, because I, probably like you, don't expect for Anthony Richardson to just, slowly and methodically move the football down the field. He's a big play guy. The Colts need big, explosive plays in order to win this football game. For the Dolphins, they're relying on the same thing because Tyler Huntley is not good at playing quarterback. Last night I took some time to go and look at, just Tyler Huntley's numbers throughout his career. The year that he made the Pro Bowl, he threw 2 touchdown passes and had 3 interceptions. He played like 4 games. That was it. So I just kind of find it funny that people call him a Pro Bowler, even though the year that he made the Pro Bowl, he only started 4 games. He threw 2 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. It's not very good. Anyway, to just further emphasize how bad of a quarterback Tyler Huntley is, his QBR, his quarterback rating, which is out of 100, right? His QBR in the year is 22. 22. That's terrible. That's awful. And I think I could go play quarterback and post a quarterback rating of 22. Seriously. I really think that I could. Okay? In 2 games, in the 2 games that Tyler Huntley has started for the Dolphins, he's only led the Dolphins offense to score 27 points. In 2 games, he scored 12 points against the Tennessee Titans, who, as we all saw on Sunday, aren't very good. And then against the Patriots, he scored 15 points. The Patriots are awful. Okay? They're, in the conversation for worst team in the NFL, even though now that they're playing Drake May, I don't think that they are. They're still awful. They're still horrendously bad, but they're a little bit better now with Drake May back there instead of Jacoby Brissett. Okay? But here's the thing, though. Here's the important things to know. The Dolphins still have an incredible amount of speed with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Okay? Tyler Huntley's a guy who only threw for 94 yards against the Titans, and he only threw for 194 yards against the Patriots. He's only completing 60% of his passes on the year. Okay? And he's yet to throw a touchdown pass. But when you have Tyreek Hill, and you have Jalen Waddle, and you have Raheem Mostert, those are 3 guys. Haven't even brought up Devon A-Chain, haven't even brought up the rookie Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. Those are, they have so many guys, the Dolphins do, so many that are incredibly capable of catching the football, being handed the football, and you blink and they score. This team is incredibly fast. Like I said earlier, they have more speed than a drug dealer in Miami. Okay? If the Colts can limit explosive plays from this blazing fast Dolphins offense, then the Colts should cruise to victory because this Dolphins team is incapable of slowly and methodically moving the football down the field. They just aren't consistent enough at the quarterback spot. They don't run the ball particularly well, right? And Tyler Huntley, he's not going to complete 7 passes on an 11-play drive. That's just not going to happen. He's just not good enough to do that. So if this Colts defense can just limit explosive plays, they should be fine. But let's be honest, I don't trust this Colts defense to limit anything. Okay? I have no trust in this Colts defense, even though they did play well against Will Levis last week, which is good news, right? They played against a bad quarterback who had pretty good weapons, not as good as the weapons that the Dolphins have, but DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Treylon Burks. That's a good group of 3 receivers right there. And the Colts, to their credit, defensively did a good job against them. Tyler Huntley isn't much better than Will Levis. Now, are Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill better than DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley? Yes, of course. Right? So that makes me feel a little bit better that maybe this Colts defense can show a little something, right? That they can be good enough for the Colts to win this game, 20-10 or something like that. Okay, but the big thing, don't let Tyreek Hill get loose. Don't let Jalen Waddle get loose, right? Because if this does turn into a slow-paced, low-scoring game, I do trust the Colts to win that game. Simply because with all the questions around Anthony Richardson, right, with the interceptions that he's thrown and the inconsistency that we've seen, there is something that this Colts team can lean on, and that is the run game. Whether Jonathan Taylor plays or not, I don't think he practiced yesterday. Everything I've read has pointed to him not practicing, right? But either way, This game's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's the battle of explosive plays because whoever is able to create more explosives, right, from this Dolphins offense that can't sustain drives because Tyler Huntley's their quarterback, and this Colts offense that can't sustain drives because Anthony Richardson is their quarterback, even though I do think that the Colts have a better chance of sustaining drives than Miami because I do think Anthony Richardson is better than Tyler Huntley. This game is about explosive plays because these quarterbacks are just inconsistent, to say the least. Speaking of quarterbacks, I've got more thoughts on Anthony Richardson. Zach Pereles from CBS Sports, he's an NFL writer over there. You can read his stuff at cbssports.com. He's going to join me at 11 o'clock. We're going to talk about the Thursday night game tonight. We're going to talk Colts Dolphins. Should be a lot of fun, but when we come back here in 4 minutes, Anthony Richardson is going to play Sunday. Maybe. We'll see. I've got thoughts on Anthony Richardson when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
More winners, more often. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice day. Head over to YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. Watch the stream over there. Join the chat. Be part of the conversation. Colts, Dolphins on Sunday. I think Anthony Richardson's going to play. All signs point to Anthony Richardson playing football on Sunday, but all signs pointed to that last week as well, right? I think that, once again, you and I are both expecting that Anthony Richardson's going to play. And I went back yesterday, listened to some pre-practice interviews, all those things, and Anthony Richardson was talking to the media, and I feel like he made it abundantly clear that he feels better this week than he did at the end of last week.
I'm able to move, better, without any worries. Just confident in all of the movements, throwing the ball confident with that. And then just running around out there practice, I'm confident with all that. So I'll probably say that's the biggest difference.
Anthony Richardson right there talking about his hip and how he's moving better and all these things. And look, I think he's going to play. I do. But more importantly, he better play this week. I called him soft last week when the news broke that he wasn't going to play against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And some people push back on that. They're like, no, team held him out, yada, yada, all that stuff, which is fine. So some people agreed with me. Some people disagreed. The people that disagreed, you're allowed to be wrong. That's okay. He should have played last week. Straight up. Undoubtedly, he should have played last week. And the Colts have been adamant about how he's their starter going forward, okay? Every Shane Steichen soundbite, every single one asking about Anthony Richardson. He's our starter going forward. Oh, well, why didn't he play last week? Could he have played? Yeah, he could have played, but we wanted him at 100%. Why? Okay, it all points to the Colts. They keep saying that he's their starter. But let's just be honest about this. If he has another setback, that'd be very convenient. And look, I'm not conspiracy theory guy. That's not who I am. Okay, we do Conspiracy Corner. Haven't done that in a while. We need to bring that back. But we got a segment on the show called Conspiracy Corner where we kind of make fun of conspiracy theories. With that being said, if you wanted to tell me that the Colts really don't want him to be the starter and they want Joe Flacco, so they can win games right now, I wouldn't call you crazy. Okay, and if Anthony Richardson has another setback, I think many of us, especially, I will lead this charge. I will lead the conspiracy theory charge that the Colts actually don't want Anthony Richardson to play. Okay, so hopefully he plays this week. Hopefully that's not the case. But we all know that Joe Flacco is likely the better quarterback as of right now. I've talked about that a lot this week. I've talked a lot about how that doesn't matter and how Anthony Richardson should be the starting quarterback anyway, because the gap between the two really isn't that big, and Anthony Richardson needs reps to figure out if he's the future of the franchise or not. I don't want to redo that whole spiel again. Okay, you can go back. You can listen to literally any show from earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. The Real Jonathan Smith podcast is where you can find those if you want to hear that whole argument. As of right now, though, the Colts have my trust when it comes to Anthony Richardson. When they say that he's the starter, I am willing to believe them because that is the route that makes the most sense. He missed most of last year. Okay, all but 4 games. Okay, and at some point, they have to see him play. He's done the whole sit out and watch a veteran do it thing. Okay, so the idea that he needs to play this year, that is what makes the most sense. Okay, because they have to figure out whether or not he's good enough to be the future. But at the same time, Chris Ballard knows that his job's on the line. He knows that he's fighting for his job. And Shane Steichen, because he's a coach, and like every other coach, they want to win right now. Most general managers and coaches don't like each other because the general manager is trying to prepare for the future, whereas the head coach is like, I got to win right now because if I don't win right now, you're going to fire me. Okay? So it's an interesting thing, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest to find out that the Colts have been lying to us and they really want Flacco out there. But hopefully it's Anthony Richardson taking snaps based off his comments yesterday. He was a full participant again at practice yesterday. That is who I expect to be out there Sunday. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Anthony Richardson had a very convenient setback that led to Joe Flacco starting again against the Miami Dolphins. And look, if Joe Flacco plays, you can chalk this thing up as a W. Now, Coach Steichen, I like him, okay? I think he's a great play caller. I think he's a good young head coach, okay, who's only going to get better the more that he does this. But there is something about Coach Steichen that drives me up a wall, man. I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. And it's his coach speak, okay? For those of you who don't know what that is, you probably do. But coach speak, it's just the art of saying nothing when asked a question. Okay, see any politician, okay? Shane Steichen is quickly climbing the coach speak ranking ladder. He's not Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is undoubtedly the best coach speak coach in the NFL right now. That guy's a legend in the coach speak space. But Shane Steichen is climbing that ladder of coach speak success. And here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show, I like to acknowledge when people do things well. I do. Okay? And so to honor Coach Steichen's ability to say nothing at all of his press conferences, from now on, whenever Shane Steichen does a press conference, I'm going to pull a couple of clips and I'm going to break them down and give it a grade on a scale of 1 to 10 how good the coach speak is. Here is our first quote from Shane Steichen for this week's coach speak grades.
Why was it so important? I know you mentioned that you wanted AR, you and the team wanted to feel 100%. Like, why was that so important before you got back out here?
Just because he's a guy that touches the ball on every play, and it's a long season. We're in week 6 and wanted to make sure he's feeling 100% before he's back out there.
Coach Steichen talking about why Anthony Richardson didn't play last week. This is a fantastic response. Okay, Shane Steichen gave away nothing. He said things that you and I already knew, but they made sense. That's obviously important. He's right. Anthony Richardson will touch the football on every single play because he's the quarterback. Fun fact, quarterbacks touch the ball on every play, just like Shane Steichen said right there. He's also correct in saying that it's a long season, 17 weeks, well, 18 weeks if you count the bye. That is a long time. And we're only in week 6, right? We got 2/3 of the season remaining. Okay, nothing but facts were stated there from Shane Steichen. Okay, so far, or in that statement, everything that Shane Steichen said, we already knew. Okay? Seriously, that's it. And at the end, he makes it sound like he really cares. Okay? We wanted him to be 100% before he went back out there. Okay? He said that earlier in the week. So once again, it was nothing that we didn't know. It sounded player friendly. Hey, look at Coach Steichen, man. He really cares about his young 22-year-old quarterback. He's so sweet. Okay? Everything that he said was true and it made sense, but you and I learned absolutely nothing from that statement. Great coach speak. We're going to give that an 8.1. Okay, I thought his response was too short. I need it to be longer and a little bit more drawn out. That way you use up the time and you answer less questions. Okay, and the other thing is that was clearly coach speak. Like every reporter in that room was like, why even answer the question? You didn't tell me anything. The best coach speak happens when we don't even notice that it was coach speak. And Coach Steichen has to get better in that regard if he wants to earn a perfect score. Here is Coach Steichen's second response that we're going to break down here on the coach speak scale.
Shane, they're going to be without, obviously, their starting quarterback. How dangerous is it to not to get caught up in that and just kind of focus in on?
It's a great question. Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing out there. You got to go execute in the NFL. It doesn't matter banged up. Everyone's got guys banged up and missing guys, and you got to have that mindset that it doesn't matter. And you got to go win the football game and go execute at a high level. Trust the guy next to you that, he's going to make the play, together. And that's what it's all about is playing together and finding ways no matter who's out there.
Shane Steichen right there being asked about, the mindset of the team, given that they're going to face a backup quarterback. The start of this answer was textbook. Like, couldn't get any better. Flattery? Oh, geez. Flattery to open a rebuttal. Like, it's always a great play. Always a great play. It gets the reporter on your side. You come off like a nice guy. You're giving him a compliment of like, hey, man, you're doing a good job. That's a great reporter question. That is a great way to respond to any question, really. The next time your wife asks you, why didn't you do the dishes? Start your answer with, that's a great question. And like that'll get you on her good side to start. Great opening sentence there from Shane Steichen. After that, after Shane Steichen started so perfectly, he went old school on us. Cliches the whole way. Said things like, it doesn't matter who's playing out there. You got to go execute. I think every coach from the middle school level on up has said that. And then that led into everyone has guys banged up and missing games. I've said that a lot. I'm sure that those reporters have as well. Fantastic cliche. And then he rolled that into a third one of you got to have that mindset that you got to go win the football game. Jeez, another great cliche. And then he rolls it into another one. Trust the guy next to you. Every coach from Pee Wee football on up has said that. I think I've seen that in every movie that I've seen as well, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football movie. Everyone says that. And then, oh man, he rolls it into another cliche. It's about finding ways and playing together no matter who's out there. Shane Steichen rattled off a chain of cliches longer than a school bus. Okay? Just incredible performance in terms of the coach speak. Everything he said was positive. He kept it about his team. He didn't talk about the Dolphins and Tyler Huntley at all. But, as he always does, and why he's such a master at the coach speak, he didn't really answer the question. He never mentioned like how dangerous it can be to relax. He never brought it up. Okay, I'm giving this response a 9.2 on the coach speak scale, which is an incredibly high grade. Okay, his answer was so good. The first time I listened to the press conference, I forgot what the answer was. Seriously, I was sitting there at, midnight last night working through this audio. And he says it, and I'm just like nodding my head along as he lists off all these cliches that I completely forgot what he was asked in the first place. Like, he finished his answer. I was like, what was the question? I don't even remember what it was. So the chain of cliches was perfect, following just a textbook open in his response. So that response has to be graded high. We're giving it a 9.2 on the coach speak scale. Final clip here, and then we'll get to Nebraska and Indiana because, who's not? I'm ready for college football. I know you are as well. Here's our last little soundbite from Shane Steichen at his press conference yesterday.
Monday, you guys mentioned you're still having conversations about Buck getting the 21-day window. Have you concluded yet?
We're still working through that right now. Yeah.
Terrible response. Okay. Coach Steichen right there asked about DeForest Buckner. Is he going to play this week? All that kind of stuff. And I hate to close this segment out with a horrible performance from Shane Steichen because I like Shane, but I have to show the good coach speak and the bad coach speak. And this was bad coach speak. This was terrible. The response, way too short. Okay, he's asked, are you going to activate DeForest Buckner, Defo, a.k.a. Buck, whatever you want to call him. He was asked, are you going to activate him from IR, start that 21-day practice window, all that kind of stuff. And he was basically like, we're still talking about that. Response was way too short. He had an opportunity to throw some compliments out about DeForest Buckner. He could have said, DeForest Buckner, man, he's been working really hard to come back from IR, man. Like every time I see him, he's with the training staff and he's working his butt off to come back from this injury and all that other kind of stuff. He didn't do it. Not a single nice thing said about DeForest Buckner. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, because coaches usually do this. Guys that are good at coach speak usually do this. They'll leave the door open for the guy to play that week. He didn't even leave the door open. He was just like, yeah, we're still talking about it. And yesterday was Wednesday, which means DeForest Buckner is not playing this week. Okay, the key to good coach speak is to keep the cards close to your chest, but make people think that they got a peek. Right here in this response of we're still talking about it, Steichen took his cards and just shoved them up his shirt. He didn't tease any sort of idea. Because of that, he's going to earn himself a 2.3 on the coach speak scale. When we come back here in 4 minutes, Nebraska at Indiana. I've got thoughts. I've got a movie title for it. It's going to be good. Nebraska at Indiana thoughts when we come back here in 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Off to a great start here. The show's only getting better. Talking Nebraska at IU here in a sec. Zach Pereles of CBS Sports, NFL writer. He's going to join me coming up here in like 20 minutes. He's joining me at 11. It's going to be good. Love having Zach on. Smart guy. We're going to talk a lot of Colts, Dolphins, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be good. But before I get into that with Zach here in 20 minutes, Nebraska at Indiana. I did this bit earlier. I'm going to do it again because I like doing it, and it's a lot of fun. I love books. I love movies. Titles are important because titles tell you what any story is about, whether you're reading a news article, a sports article, a book, or you're going to watch a movie. The title's important because it tells you what the story is about. It kind of hints at the theme. I'm reading a book right now called Agent in Place. Fantastic spy thriller. Okay. Having a blast reading this thing. And so because titles are important, I'm going to start titling these Nebraska and Colts football games. Okay. And it's just a projection of what I think the theme of the game is going to be, or what the discourse about the game is going to be afterwards. Nebraska at Indiana. The title for this one is The Truth Comes Out. In a stadium not that far away from where I sit right now, 2 days from now, the 6-0 Indiana Hoosiers will play a football game against the 5-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers in a game that will have college football playoff implications, and it will take place at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana, in front of a sold-out crowd. The excitement around the Indiana football team has never been higher. The Hoosiers 6-0 start behind the new Indiana head coach, Curt Cignetti, has provided a spark on campus surrounding this football program. This tough, hard-nosed football team has people believing this team could land in the college football playoff, but there are questions around this intriguing Indiana Hoosier football team. Their best win is over the Northwestern Wildcats, who are currently 14th in the Big Ten standings. The Indiana Hoosiers still have plenty left to prove, and they have that opportunity this Saturday at noon when they host the storied Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska is 5-1, and they've been tested. They have wins over 4-2 Colorado. They have a win over 4-2 Rutgers. And their only loss came in overtime to the 5-1 and ranked Illinois Fighting Illini. What is a Fighting Illini? I don't think anyone knows, but that's okay. There's more known about Nebraska, Matt Rule, and their great value brand Patrick Mahomes quarterback than there is known about the Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana will have an opportunity for a resume-building win on Saturday for the first time this season. Everyone wants to know if the Hoosiers are legit. Is this basketball school turning into a football school? We're going to find out on Saturday when they host Nebraska. The sports books think that Indiana is legit as they opened as 7-point favorites over Nebraska, who I have watched a lot this year because I like Matt Rule. I know people who used to work for him when he was the head coach in Carolina. They swear by him. They say he's just the best dude. And I got to be honest, I like rooting for guys that are good dudes. Like I do. Like I don't like Kirby Smart as much as I did after seeing him chest bump and hit the starting quarterback for Mississippi State when he ran out of bounds. Okay. But Matt Rule would never do that. He would never do that by all accounts. So I like Matt Rule. I got a good buddy who's also a Nebraska fan. So I like Matt Rule and I like Nebraska. So I've watched them a lot. They are a good football team. Okay. But look, in college football, man, like when you have a freshman playing quarterback, like you are susceptible to losing games that you shouldn't. And by all accounts, at least when it comes to Vegas, who's usually right about these things, Indiana should win this game. Like they should, but that doesn't matter because what we've seen on the field from Indiana just doesn't stack up to what we've seen on the field from Nebraska. Like the fact that Indiana was favored by a touchdown when these lines opened was so surprising to me because Nebraska's a good football team. So is Indiana, we think, but we really don't know. The truth will come out on Saturday. And I can't wait. I can't wait because I like this Indiana team. I believe in them. I believe in Curt Cignetti and everything that he's building there. I think that they're talented enough to compete with the better teams in the Big Ten. And, you know, the truth's going to come out on Saturday. I can't wait. Hopefully you're going. Stay for the whole thing. Don't leave at halftime because you know that those Nebraska fans aren't going to leave themselves. The sports books like the Hoosiers, so I like the Hoosiers as well. And that is the first of many great games on Saturday. It's really the only good game in the noon window. Okay, so the eyes of the entire country are going to be on that game. Fox's, college football show is going to be in Bloomington. Okay? Like it's like it's going to be electric. It's going to be awesome. Like if you're in Bloomington and you can go to that pregame show, like you should go because those things are a lot of fun. Okay? Once again, Indiana, only good game in that 12 o'clock slate. So the eyes of the entire country are going to be on them and what they look like. Like this could be a really big Saturday going forward for Indiana. And then the rest of the day, like there's 4 other games that really jump off the page at you, right? 7th Alabama goes on the road to take on 11th ranked Tennessee. Now, I will say, as someone who is not a fan of the 12-team college football playoff, I simply think that it's too many teams. It's like, what's the point of the regular season? Like, if you can lose to Northern Illinois and still make the playoff, like Notre Dame is going to do, then that just shouldn't happen. I think that if you lose to Northern Illinois, your season should just be over, and that's just no longer the case, right? So that is the drawback for me with the 12-team playoff. But I will say that the good thing is that this Alabama and Tennessee game really means something. Like this game has legitimate playoff implications. Same thing with Indiana and Nebraska, because if Nebraska wins that game, they'll be ranked. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but they've only got 1 loss to a good Illinois team. They're going to be looking like, hey guys, like if we win out, like Nebraska will be in the playoff. Like that Indiana-Nebraska game like has college football playoff implications, and it's nice to have these big matchups feel bigger, like in like this Alabama and Tennessee game. Like normally we'd be excited because it's 7th ranked Alabama and 11th ranked Tennessee, right? The winner gets to smoke cigars. It's an incredible tradition. It's a big time rivalry. But on top of all that, whoever loses is going to have 2 losses. One not so great loss, Tennessee losing to Arkansas, and Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Like those aren't terrible losses, but it's not the same as losing to Georgia on the road in Athens. Okay. And like whoever loses this game is going to have a legitimate chance at missing the college football playoff. Like it just, throws a little extra into the pot, which is great. 24th Michigan is playing 22nd ranked Illinois on Saturday as well. This is another game with playoff implications. Illinois still looking to fight their way in. They've got 1 loss on the road against Penn State in Happy Valley, which is a tough place to play. That is not a bad loss by any means as of right now. And they're sitting there, they're like, we could probably sneak in as like the 11 or 12 seed, but they have to win this week in order to do that. Michigan, they probably still have a chance because they're Michigan and name recognition matters. And if they have an option between putting Michigan in or putting in, I don't know, Nebraska or Indiana, like they're probably going to put in Michigan because Michigan's just a little bit more recognizable, right? They just mean a little bit more in the vast landscape that is college football. Okay, so like this is a big game with college football playoff implications. 8th ranked LSU going on the road to Fayetteville at Arkansas. Go Hogs, baby. Whoop pig. Anyway, LSU coming off a big win over Ole Miss. They are firmly solidified in the college football playoff right now. They have 1 loss early in the year, neutral site against USC. Okay, and they're hoping to stay there. They're hoping to stay firmly in that college football playoff mix. On the other side, Arkansas has a chance at the college football playoff if they win out, right? Like they've already got a win over 4th ranked Tennessee. If they win this week, that'll be a win over 8th ranked LSU. They got Texas later on in the year at home. They still have a path because their schedule is so tough. It's unlikely, but they have all the remaining tough games at home, starting with this one. Okay, so Arkansas is sitting there and they're like, look, we can beat good teams because they just beat 4th ranked Tennessee 2 weeks ago. They're coming off a bye. Now they get LSU at home. Okay, like they're sitting there and they're probably like, hey, like we can win all these games and potentially make the playoff. Like that's where Arkansas sits. LSU is sitting right there as well as a team that thinks that they have a good chance at making the college football playoff. You should watch this game because Arkansas LSU game's the battle for the Golden Boot. These games are always great. Always great. Arkansas coming off a bye. LSU coming off a tough win against Ole Miss. This game's going to be awesome. I can't wait. The line only being 2.5 should tell you how great this game's going to be. Last great game of the day. 5th ranked Georgia on the road, headed to Austin, Texas, against the number 1 ranked team in the land, Texas Longhorns. Georgia has an opportunity to re-solidify themselves as the best team in the country. They legitimately might be. Okay, like their one loss came on the road against Alabama, and I feel like we mostly remember the start of the game and Georgia getting blown out in the first half. And we just kind of forget that they did come all the way back and take the lead, and then Alabama had a big play down the sideline, and that was kind of it. Like, Georgia is still really good at football. Like, Clemson is one of the 10 best teams in the country, and Georgia blew them out to start the year. Okay, so like I'm very wary of this game. And people love Texas right now. The Texas Longhorns are the New York Knicks of college football. Everyone wants them to be good because when they're good, college football just seems to be better, which I don't believe. I think college football is way more fun when Texas sucks because I can't stand Texas. Okay? But here's the thing about Texas. While everyone is jumping on the bandwagon and getting excited, ooh, Texas really good at football this year. Watch out, Arch Manning, even though he's the backup. Steve Sarkisian's really got it rolling. Here's the truth of the matter. Texas hasn't played anybody good. They haven't beaten anybody that's good. Like, I hear people question Indiana, right? And the fact that they haven't beaten anybody worth their salt. And I'm like, Texas hasn't either. Texas's best win of the year was last week against Oklahoma, who cannot score. Oklahoma is incapable of scoring. And like, if Oklahoma finished the year at 6-6, that would make a lot of sense to me. Right? So either that's their best win or their best wins on the road, which is always tough, against Michigan, who runs a 1940s offense. They can't complete a forward pass. Okay? And I know that people love Texas, and we're jumping on the bandwagon, and Texas is back, and they're doing a little horn stuff. And all. No. I'm telling you right now, Texas hasn't proven anything. Earlier in this segment, I titled the Nebraska at Indiana game, the truth will come out, because we're going to figure out how good of a football team Indiana is on Saturday. And I cannot wait for noon. It's going to be a great game. It's going to have my full undivided attention because there's no other good game on in that noon slot. Okay, we're going to find out a lot about Indiana on Saturday. And when you tune into College Game Day or Fox's big noon kickoff thing or whatever the title of their show is, that's going to be a major theme. We don't know how good Indiana is. They haven't beaten anybody good, but they've blown everybody out. We don't really know. And then later on, they're going to talk about this Texas and Georgia game, and they're going to be like, oh, Texas is so good. Oh, Texas is amazing. Even though Texas falls into the exact same boat of they haven't beaten anybody that's any good. Okay, that is the reality of Texas football, and that's also the reality of Indiana football. Have both teams done things that make me think that they're good? Yes, of course, right? If you're 6-0, if you're undefeated at this point in the year, you are not a bad football team, no matter who you've played, because it's hard to win 6 in a row. It's hard to go on the road to conference opponents and win games. Like, that is not an easy thing to do. All I'm saying about Texas is I think people are showing up a little early. Okay, like whenever I go to parties, I want to show up 15 minutes late. Don't want to be early to that. Okay, because when you show up early to a party, there's like 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes if the guy who's hosting the party isn't very cool. There's like 15, 20, 30 minutes of just kind of like awkwardly standing around, small talk stuff before the party really gets jumping. And I would like to show up when the party really gets jumping. And when it comes to Texas, I'm seeing all these people kind of arrive early that they're really good, and they might be. I'm just saying, let's slow down a little bit on the Texas hype. And we're going to find out a lot about them on Saturday when they finally play against a team that I know is good at football in the Georgia Bulldogs. Same thing with Indiana. We're going to learn a lot about them when they play against a Nebraska Cornhuskers team that's good. They can score points. They're physical, right? They check a lot of boxes. Nebraska at Indiana should be an awesome game. And Georgia at Texas should also be a great game. More great games coming on Sunday with the NFL slate. Zach Pereles of CBS Sports, he's an NFL writer over there. He's set to join me here in 5 minutes. We're going to talk Colts, Dolphins, and the rest. A little bit of Thursday Night Football as well, probably. Should be a blast. Stick around for that. Zach Pereles of CBS Sports is going to join me here in 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice week. It's already Thursday. This week's just flying. It's moving by. And here at the Real Jonathan Smith Show, we only have the best takes and the best guests. Zach Pereles from CBSSports.com. He's a writer, an NFL writer over there. He joins the show. Zach, what's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited for another week of football, another week of everything. So it's a great time to be a sports fan right now.
It is. Like, are you a college football fan or no?
Yeah, everything. College football, baseball, we love it all. NHL, NBA is about to get underway. Everything.
Okay,
Finals are going crazy right now.
They are. The Sabrina shot last night was crazy. I really like where the Mets are at in their series against the Dodgers, because the Mets are undefeated against the Dodgers when they just score a run. So if they can just find a way to score one, I feel really good about their chances. But you know, the college football games last weekend were great. The weekend before that, they were even better with all the upsets. We've got another good slate this Saturday. But Sunday, I think, is going to be really great as well. Obviously, we've got a football game tonight between the Broncos and the Saints. Before we talk about the games, though, so Shane Steichen here in Indianapolis is, I think, one of the best coaches in the NFL at coach speak. And so I'm just curious, like, I don't know how many press conferences you watch. Who's the coach in the NFL that you think is best at, like, the coach speak, the art of saying nothing while saying a lot?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've always thought that Sean Payton is a guy who just, like, it's so hard to glean anything off of him. He's a guy that, like, he's I would say he's a little bit just like he's been doing it for a long time. He knows what to say and how to say it. So I think that he's pretty good. And there are definitely some guys who are on, like, the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, Dennis Allen will tell you how he feels about his guys.
Yes, he will.
Nice. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I went to Mike Tomlin. I think he's the best at it. And he's also kind of funny whenever he does his stuff. It's great. He's kind of my go-to guy if I want to hear coach speak for some reason. For sure.
No, he's good. And I do not know what they're doing with that quarterback room right now.
Dude, I don't either. And I mean, we can start there. I mean, when you're 4-2, I think it's hard to replace the guy that got you to 4-2, even though he hasn't been great. He's obviously done enough for them to win. I would continue to roll with Justin Fields. Would you continue to do that, or would you be willing to make the switch?
Yeah, I think that I actually, when I first saw this news, my legitimate reaction was like, what? Like, I truly could not understand why they are doing this. I think Justin Fields, you look at not just the record, like, he has taken care of the ball. He is using his legs, and he's doing it with a pretty bad supporting cast around him. I think that a big thing that we need to give him credit for is that he is still taking a lot of negative plays, which has been the big issue throughout his career, but it's gotten significantly better in terms of mitigating pressure, not taking sacks. He has played really well. And isn't that what the Steelers wanted this offseason when they went and got they took kind of these medium-sized swing on quarterbacks with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson? Like, they didn't go out for a huge big name. They didn't draft a quarterback. They said, we need a quarterback who can take care of the ball, who can make a few plays here or there, because we don't have a ton around him. And if he can do both of those things, then we're going to be set up for success. And that is exactly what Justin Fields has done. The offensive line, there are just some breakdowns where you're like, what is going on? And he makes things happen. I think we think of Russell Wilson as a guy who does a lot with his legs, but that's the Russell Wilson of 5-10 years ago. He's not nearly as mobile. He can still move a little bit, but not for positive plays. He's one of these guys who has always kind of been more of like a, scramble to keep passing plays alive and then run if he needs it. But that, again, he hasn't run significantly in several years. I'm really surprised. And then the last thing, I think Justin Fields, if anything, needs more work with these first teamers, because remember, he was in a quarterback battle all offseason. He didn't win that quarterback battle until Russell Wilson got hurt. So I just want to see him play. I think that he offers you both a higher ceiling with the physical attributes, the ability to run, the big arm, but I also think that he keeps your floor a little bit higher because he can mitigate some of those bad plays.
Yeah, I'm with you, joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. He's an NFL writer. You can read his stuff over at cbssports.com. Yeah, I'm with you. And when people advocate for Russell Wilson, I'm like, did you watch him in Denver? I feel like that should debunk any idea that he should be the starter. I think part of this, though, comes down to just and NFL coaches don't want to be wrong. Just like, whenever you write something, you don't want to be wrong. And whenever I have a take, like, I don't want to be wrong. And Mike Tomlin said in the offseason that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter. So I'm just kind of curious is he just stubborn and he doesn't want to admit that he was wrong and continue to play Justin Fields? That's kind of why I think this is happening.
Yeah. It's always tough. Like, I always try to remind myself when I try to have a super hot take here or there that I'm not in the building. I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. I don't know nearly as much as they do. But yeah, I just think, I don't know. I would think that you're doing all right now with a quarterback who, wasn't your starter until literally week 1. So I would say keep going with him. And especially like changing to Russell Wilson coming up against a really good Jets defense, like that's a challenge. And yeah, I just don't see as much upside with Russell Wilson at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do see some upside with Bo Nix. Spencer Rattler, I don't know. I saw him play one game, and it didn't go particularly well, and that is the quarterback matchup that we have tonight for Thursday Night Football. I'm expecting just a really ugly game. Is that kind of what your expectations are for tonight?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I at least appreciate about both of these guys is that they are not scared. Like, they will throw the ball. Like, it's always tough to watch rookie quarterbacks who every throw is a check down, every throw is a screen. They're trying to get the ball out of their hands fast. Like, Spencer Rattler, obviously the results weren't great, but he was taking, and he made a decent amount of big throws in his, starting debut. And Bo Nix, I love the Sean Payton, like Ferris Bueller sort of idea where he'll go out and try some stuff, like, and they've got to rein that in. But I always think you'd much rather see a really young quarterback who's willing to try some stuff than a guy who's so scared that he's making scared mistakes rather than the, going for it mistakes. So I do think that it'll be ugly, but it might be like fun ugly.
Okay. Fun. I like fun. That works for me. And I think that you're right. Like, watching Rattler play, there were some throws where I'm like, that's not the best decision, but I like that, like you said, like, I like it when young quarterbacks are really aggressive. Like, I don't know if you watched the Titans and Colts game. You probably didn't, because it was incredibly boring. But like, when you watched Will Levis, it's like he's throwing most of his passes like behind the line of scrimmage. His yards per attempt was 3.5, if that doesn't put it in perspective for you. And it's like, can we push the ball down the field a little bit? And it's part of why I like Richardson, because he's very willing to do that. So I think you're exactly right. And speaking of Richardson and ugly matchups and ugly games, the Colts play the Dolphins this week. And I just, it's, so do you gamble? I don't know if I've asked you this or not. I'm
not a gambler, but I I can't imagine that the over/under is very high for this one.
It's not. I usually bet the lines if I bet anything, and the Colts opened as 3.5-point favorites. Once again, joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. He's an NFL writer over there. You can read all of his stuff at cbssports.com. So the Colts opened as 3.5-point favorites, and the line's down to 3. Like, that just feels incredibly low. Like, I get it. The Colts, they're not the Chiefs, they aren't the Ravens, but the Dolphins of Tyler Huntley are the worst team in the NFL. It's either them or it's the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett. It's one of those two. And I feel like the line should be higher. Do you agree? Do you think that this line feels low?
Yeah, I mean, I think that under pretty normal circumstances, just looking at these two teams right now, it would be. The thing that I do think is that maybe the Dolphins have a little bit of this, bye week bounce coming back. Full week for Tyler Huntley. He had just gotten to the team. It's one of these games that could randomly get weird because the Colts should be able to dominate this game on the ground, and then all of a sudden Anthony Richardson throws a bad pick or two, and all of a sudden the Colts have outgained the Dolphins 2-1, but it's still within a possession. I always gravitate to Vegas always knows. So I just think there's a little bit of that bye week bounce for the Dolphins. I think that the biggest issue for the Dolphins is how reliant that offense has been on Tua. Like, the fact that it completely falls apart without one guy is a big, big issue, and they don't have the personnel to play any other way. But I do think that the bye week maybe helps them figure some things out. Maybe they're like, hey, if we can pull out this one and get Tua back in a week or two. So I always lean Vegas always knows. I could see this being one where it's 23-6 Colts, or I could see it being 23-20 Colts, and all of a sudden you're like, Vegas knew what they were doing.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Either way, though, I think you'd agree that this is one of the worst matchups on Sunday, Colts and Dolphins. But I'll just ask you straight up, is this the worst matchup on Sunday? Is this going to be the worst game that no one really wants to pay attention to?
Oh man, I mean, I think that it's definitely. Geez, I'm looking through the schedule right now. I would definitely say it's the worst matchup in the taking place in the United States. Raiders Rams might give you a run for their money. But I actually do love Matthew. I just love watching Matthew Stafford play the game of football. So Raiders Rams is up there, and then Patriots Jags. At least it's in London, which makes it fun. Drake May does some fun stuff, but it's definitely a contender. I might have to go with Raiders Rams. I just can't see the Raiders.
Yeah.
They got rid of Devontae Adams. What's left there? They don't have a quarterback. At least the Colts bring a fun quarterback to the table.
That's true.
I'm not sure you get that from Vegas.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell, he went to Purdue, but you're right. And they have Brock Bowers left. If you have Brock Bowers in fantasy, I would play that guy this week.
I think that Brock Bowers is probably the best player that nobody has really paid a ton of attention to because that team is struggling so much. He is just awesome. You put him anywhere, he's too fast, he's too big, he's great after the catch. He's excellent. The fact that anyone can thrive in that sort of offensive ecosystem, much less a rookie quote unquote tight end, I'm really impressed by him. And you're seeing that Georgia really struggles without him too. So he's just, I love him as a player, willing blocker, really good, really versatile receiver. But again, if your rookie tight end is your star attraction at this point, you're probably not in the best game of the week.
That's exactly right. Joined by Zach Pereles, an NFL writer for CBSSports.com. He also writes a newsletter where he covers more than just the NFL. Go and check that out. So, which game on Sunday are you most looking forward to? I think you're gonna give me one of two games. I'm just kind of curious which one.
Oh man, from like a neutral perspective, I think you know the two that I'm going to go with. And if I get either of these wrong, please let me know. I love Houston, Green Bay, and I love Kansas City, San Francisco.
Yes, those are the two that I had in mind. The fact that Houston and Green Bay is at 1:00 is like absurd to me. Like maybe you know the answer to this because I don't. You know how like late in the year the NFL will flex games in and out of prime time based off of like playoff implications and all those things?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they just do that this week? Like, why can't we have Houston and Green Bay for Sunday Night Football? Because like the Jets are interesting. The Steelers are 4-2, but like it's weird. The Steelers are 4-2, and I still don't know if they're good or not. But like that is the game that I think everyone wants to see. And so I wish that they'd be more willing to flex this stuff like during the middle of the year.
Yeah, or at least send it to 4:05. Like we only have four late afternoon games three late afternoon games this week. I don't know exactly how it works. I do know that, all the game selection from all the networks happens before the season, and then TV stations can protect games from being flexed out. Yeah, I would love to see this as a standalone game, but it's going to be standing alone on my TV on Sunday.
That's right. Are you a split screen guy? Like, do you watch like multiple games at once?
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, if you ask my wife or like my family, they'll think that I'm crazy. I try to have one game up on the TV and then four on like my computer second monitor situation.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that I just can't get enough of it, and I'll click around, and obviously like all the fantasy stuff is fun as well. But yeah, I think I honestly might be more excited for Texans Packers. I think that's going to be, of those two, I think that's going to be my one. Like, I love this quarterback matchup. I could not be more impressed with CJ Stroud. Just excellent, composed, takes care of the ball while still taking shots. The Packers, I love Jordan Love. Like, that guy will not give up on a single play, and you'll get a lot of really great highlights, and you'll get some bad lowlights as well. Like that pick six out of his own end zone a couple weeks ago. But these offenses are really, really fun to watch. I think, Matt LaFleur, if he's not the best, he's one of the best at designing offenses. I really wish that Nico Collins was healthy for this game because I just love his connection with Stroud as like I love wide receivers who are just like big, fast, catch the football. Like, if you can do those three things, I'm a fan of yours in my book. And Nico Collins does that really well down the field. So I think that they're going to miss him in this game, especially because Green Bay is going to put up some points. But you can't really go wrong with either Texans, Packers, or Chiefs, 49ers as your favorite game this week.
Yeah, I'm with you, joined by Zach Pereles, NFL writer for CBS Sports. You can read his stuff over at CBSSports.com. I'm with you because I've seen Kansas City and San Francisco several times over these past few years. I feel like I know what both of them are. Maybe if McCaffrey was playing, I'd be a little more intrigued. Whereas Houston and Green Bay, like you said, we've got two awesome young quarterbacks, and like that is definitely the headline. But I've been really impressed with Green Bay's defense. Houston's defense has been really good as well. So I'm interested in this matchup between not only these quarterbacks, but like these defenses as well that have been really successful to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I'm excited for that. So you mentioned that you watch multiple games at once. So I have to ask, we've got 7 games in the 1:00 window on Sunday. Will the Dolphins and Colts get will they get a screen? If not, I totally understand.
Oh man, look, I didn't even see this on. I didn't even see that we have Lions Vikings.
I know.
Jeez, that might be. Oh man, I love both those teams. Like I love how they're coached. So maybe that's the third big one there, along with Texans, Packers, and Chiefs, 49ers. Oh man, all right, this 1 o'clock schedule. It's gonna be tough, I think, for the Colts to squeeze on there.
Yeah,
because
I get it.
like I said, we've got Lions, Vikings. I think whatever will be on my TV is one, and then on the computer we've got. I like Seahawks Falcons is going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of points there. Yeah, and then obviously Texans Packers, and you've got Lions Vikings as well. That I cannot watch any more Deshaun Watson offense, so I don't even know what goes on. Although that's kind of a fun game. Titans Bills, just to see what Will Levis, what masterpiece he does with some crazy reaction to the most ridiculous interception you've seen since his crazy interception last week. Yeah, I think might be tough for Colts and Dolphins. But if Anthony Richardson, if I look up and I see a couple of those game breaks showing Anthony Richardson 60-yard touchdowns, I'll tune in. How about that?
That's
Can we
fair.
agree on that?
Yeah. Oh, that's totally fair. That's yeah. That makes a ton of sense. The other thing about Bills Titans, I'm very excited to see what Josh Allen looks like with Amari Cooper. I love that trade for them. Like that trade felt like it made sense, whereas New York's trade for Devontae Adams felt kind of panicky. So really quickly, if you want to give me your thoughts on those two trades, I'll let you go after that.
Yeah, for sure. Devontae Adams, I think I was kind of thinking the same thing. It's like a little bit panicky, but it's also like, what are you going to do? Like you have a win now team. You have a quarterback who kind of runs the show, or at least has a big say in things, I think. So yeah, like I think it's one, panicky, but it's also two, like a good move, like just based on the weird set of circumstances. And it's weird to say that panicky is good, but maybe it's not so much panicky as it is like kind of a last ditch effort. If you're going to try to get it right, you might as well try to get it right with stars, with guys like this. And obviously Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams have incredible chemistry. They're going to be good to go from the start. That AFC like wild card picture, as you know, as a Colts fan, is completely murky. Like right now, the Chargers are a playoff team.
The Colts are a playoff team.
Yeah, exactly. So might as well go for it. Like, so I think it's a mix of like, we're back into a corner. We've got to do this. And it makes sense. From a pure football standpoint and from a pure like vibes, logistics standpoint, I definitely love Amari Cooper to the Bills. Obviously, you see what Josh Allen does week in, week out. But the fact that he's been doing it without like a true outside number one receiver who can get separation, who can just win play after play after play. Like you see Josh Allen, and we love how he's taking care of the ball and spread the targets out to a bunch of different guys. I wouldn't mind Amari Cooper getting 10 targets a game, and then that opens up things for Dalton Kincaid. It opens up things for Khalil Shakir, who I think is like a really good player, but should not be your number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Amari Cooper is just going to open things up for that offense. He's going to give Josh Allen a guy that can be relied upon really heavily. I really like this trade for them. You could see kind of the shortcomings of their wide receiver room and some of their losses. And I just think like when you can get a number one who can just win his matchup over and over again on the outside, you should do it, especially when you're a team with ambitions like the Bills. And remember, the Bills have a lot of extra draft capital from the Stephon Diggs trade. So yeah, I love the move. I think it's really smart. I love it from a football sense. vibes perspective, which I don't know if I can say the same about the Jets. And I'm really excited to see what Amari Cooper can do in an offense that is not the Browns.
That's exactly right. Zach, you were great as always, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. That is the great Zach Pereles. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach_Pereles. He's an NFL writer for CBSSports.com. He covers other sports as well in his newsletter, which if you go over to his Twitter, you can find. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Colts, Dolphins, Sunday. I'll give you my thoughts when we come back.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice week so far. It is Thursday. We got Thursday night football tonight. We got more football on Saturday, more football on Sunday. Just all the football is happening this weekend. It's truly the best time of year. We got a little baseball mixed in there. NBA season is underway here shortly. And through it all, through every season, basketball season, baseball season, football season, whatever the season, I'm still reading books. I'm still watching movies because I enjoy those things, right? Like anything with a good story, I'm interested in. Okay, whether or not I'm interested, though, is dependent upon the title and the cover. The whole don't judge a book by its cover thing, I get it. Okay, you shouldn't judge people based on their appearance. But when it comes to books, you should totally judge the book by its cover because that's why the cover is there. The title is there as well to help you decipher whether or not you want to watch the movie or read the book or read the article. Titles are important, and they often indicate what the theme is of the book or movie. So because of that, I'm going to start titling Colts games this week and the Indiana football games. Okay, so the title is just a projection of what I think the theme of the game is going to be. This Colts and Dolphins game is intriguing because the Colts opened as 3.5-point favorites. The line has moved down to 3, which is even more intriguing because if you've seen the Dolphins play, why anyone would bet on the Dolphins is beyond me. Okay, they are awful, right? But the Colts and the Dolphins have one thing in common, which made coming up with the title of this game pretty easy. Colts versus Dolphins, the battle of explosive plays in a stadium not that far away. 3 days from now, the 3-3 Indianapolis Colts will play against the 2-3 Miami Dolphins in what is a huge game with playoff implications for both teams at Lucas Oil Stadium here in Indianapolis. In a stadium. Whoop, already said that. The Colts will be trying to get over 500 for the first time this season, while the Miami Dolphins will look to keep their playoff hopes alive by avoiding a 2-4 start. Both teams have questions at the quarterback position. For the Colts, will Anthony Richardson play? All signs point to yes, but he sat out last week after appearing to be healthy. So who knows what he'll do this week. The Dolphins, on the other hand, know they're going to play Tyler Huntley, who they signed off of a practice squad to replace Skylar Thompson as Tua's backup. The question for him is whether or not he'll play well because he's been awful so far. No matter who plays quarterback for the Colts and no matter how well Tyler Huntley plays for the Dolphins, this battle of two teams hoping to keep their playoff hopes alive will come down to one thing. Explosive plays will determine the outcome of this game. The Dolphins have more speed than a drug dealer in Miami. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle lead the charge when it comes to the speed and explosiveness in this Dolphins offense. One screen pass can lead to 6 in a hurry. On the other side of the football, the Colts come out explosive. They look for explosive plays. Shane Steichen has emphasized it all year. Alec Pierce gets open downfield as well as any receiver in the NFL. Josh Downs makes plays after the catch, while Michael Pittman Jr. works the middle of the field. And in addition to the explosiveness of the passing game for the Colts, they are explosive in the run game with Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position and Jonathan Taylor when he's available. Whichever team can generate the most explosive plays seems destined to win this game on Sunday because neither team has a consistent enough player at quarterback to generate long scoring drives. The Colts, on all 4 of their scoring drives against the Jaguars, all 4 of them were 10-plus plays. Anthony Richardson ain't doing that, and neither is Tyler Huntley. So this game is going to come down to explosive plays. We've seen Anthony Richardson play this year. Okay, he looked good against the Steelers. You know, it was the first time really since he was drafted that we've seen him put together back-to-back successful drives. Sadly, he got hurt, and we didn't get to see any more of him that day. Okay? I don't think he's going to come out clicking like that in his first game back after missing 2 games. He might find that rhythm for short stretches, but what he was doing against the Steelers was insane. It was something we hadn't seen him do before. So sadly, he got hurt. I don't expect him to play that level on Sunday after missing 2 games. Okay, the Colts are going to rely on Anthony Richardson to generate big plays through the air and on the ground. That is how they're going to score against the Dolphins. For the Dolphins, they're relying on big plays as well because Tyler Huntley isn't good at playing quarterback. His QBR is 22. I think I could post a QBR of 22. Just saying, okay? In the 2 games, Tyler Huntley has quarterbacked the Dolphins offense. They have scored a whopping 27 points. He scored 12 points against the Titans, and he scored 15 points against the Patriots. That's it. Against the Titans, Tyler Huntley didn't throw for 100 yards. And against the Patriots, he only threw for 194 yards. He's only completed 60% of his passes, and he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass at all. He's not good. But Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert and Jalen Wright are all more than capable of, taking one reception or one handoff 80 yards to the house. They are explosive on the perimeter. If the Colts can limit explosive plays from these blazing fast Dolphin players, then the Colts should cruise to victory. But let's be honest, I don't trust this Colts defense. You don't trust this Colts defense. Okay, the good news, if you want the positive side that points to the Colts getting stops in this game, is that they did a good job against Will Levis last week, and Tyler Huntley isn't much better than Will Levis. So maybe they can have another good showing that leads to a Colts win. We'll see, but I am worried about the speed that this Dolphins team has because this Colts team has missed a lot of tackles this year, and they aren't exactly fast defensively themselves. So I'm very intrigued to see what they do to try to slow down this insanely fast Dolphins offense. And for the Colts, hopefully it's Richardson. We'll see. He spoke a little bit yesterday on how he was feeling. I'm going to give you my thoughts on whether or not Anthony Richardson will play on Sunday when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket. 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice week. Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Hallelujah. And hopefully Anthony Richardson is going to play on Sunday. We thought he would play last week, and he didn't. I think things are kind of pointing in that same direction once again this week. Okay, because Anthony Richardson was asked yesterday before practice how he was feeling, and he made it pretty clear that he's feeling pretty good. Here's Anthony Richardson talking about his health.
I'm able to move, better, without any worries. Just confident in all of the movements, throwing the ball confident with that. And then just running around out there at practice, I'm confident with all that. So I'll probably say that's the biggest difference.
Anthony Richardson right there talking about just his hip and how he's feeling. Look, he better play this week. No way around it. He better play. I called him soft last week when the news broke that he wasn't going to play against the Titans. Some people pushed back on that, which is fine. You're allowed to be wrong. He should have played last week. Okay, and the Colts have been adamant about how he's their starter going forward. And as of right now, I believe them. But if he has another setback, that will no longer be the case. All right, we all know that Joe Flacco is likely the better quarterback as of right now. Okay, I've talked about that a lot this week. And I've also talked about how I don't really care that Joe Flacco is better than Anthony Richardson right now. Anthony Richardson should still be the starter because there are 28 games left till Anthony Richardson is eligible for a big contract extension that we've seen all these quarterbacks get, in the offseason. And look, he needs reps so that the Colts can evaluate whether or not he can be their starter going forward. Okay? I don't want to do that whole spiel again, but that is just the reality of where the Colts are at right now. Right? And as of right now, I trust the Colts when they say that Anthony Richardson is the starter. Okay, that is the route that makes the most sense. Okay, he missed most of last year, so he was able to sit and watch and learn from Gardner and all those things. And more importantly, at some point, they have to figure out if he's good or not. But Chris Ballard's fighting for his job, and Shane Steichen wants to win now because every head coach wants to win right now because they know that if they don't win right now, they could get fired. So if they were lying to us and Anthony Richardson isn't the starter on Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Okay, Anthony Richardson was a full participant yesterday at practice, so it should be him who's taking snaps. It should be. That's who I expect to be out there on Sunday. But given this Colts organization, given the fact that, coaches want to win right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Richardson conveniently had another setback with his hip that led to Joe Flacco starting again. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I am ready for Saturday. Okay, I've talked a lot about Sunday, but I'm ready for Saturday. Nebraska at Indiana. It's going to be a great game, and as I titled the Colts game earlier, I'm going to give this one a title as well, hinting at the theme of the game. Okay, what are we going to talk about after? What are we going to talk about during? And the theme or the title for Nebraska at Indiana was pretty easy as well. Nebraska at Indiana. The truth comes out in a stadium not that far away, 2 days from now. The 6-0 Indiana Hoosiers will play a game against the 5-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers in a game that will have college football playoff implications. And it will take place at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana, in front of a sold-out crowd. The excitement around Indiana football has never been higher. The Hoosiers' 6-0 start behind new Indiana head coach Curt Cignetti has provided a spark on campus and in the state of Indiana surrounding the football program. This tough, hard-nosed team has people believing that this team could land a spot in the college football playoff, but there are questions about this intriguing Hoosier football team. Their best win is over the Northwestern Wildcats, who currently sit in 14th place in the Big Ten Conference standings. The Indiana Hoosiers still have a ton left to prove, and they have that opportunity this Saturday when they host the storied football team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska's 5-1, and they've actually been tested. They have wins over 4-2 Colorado. That's a good football team. They have a win over 4-2 Rutgers, who's also a good football team. And their only loss came in overtime to the 5-1 ranked Illinois Fighting Illini, whatever a Fighting Illini is. I don't think anyone knows what that is, but hey, whatever. There's more known about Nebraska, Matt Rule, and their great value brand, Patrick Mahomes, freshman quarterback, than there is about Indiana. And Indiana will have an opportunity for a resume-building win on Saturday for the first time this season. Everyone wants to know if the Hoosiers are legit, and we're going to find out on Saturday when they play Nebraska. Now, I have questions as to whether or not Indiana is legit. And when I say legit, I mean, is this a team good enough to play in the college football playoff? Okay, is this a team that's going to play Ohio State later in the year and get their doors blown off? That is what I mean when I say, is this team legit? Okay, because they're clearly a good football team. Good football teams don't start bad football teams, don't start 6-0. Doesn't happen. They are good. Okay, and the sports books seem to like Indiana. Right, they opened as 7-point favorites. The lines moved down to 6.5. Okay, like that means a lot to me because I've watched a lot of Nebraska this year, and that is also a very good team. Matt Rule's doing a good job rebuilding. They've that freshman quarterback Raiola. He's good. He's still a freshman, and freshman playing on the road is, always an interesting thing. So I'm very intrigued to see what Nebraska looks like against Indiana, and I'm interested to see what Indiana looks like against Nebraska, right? Because although Indiana's blown out every team that they've played, we still haven't seen them play against anyone good, and that's what we're going to get to see on Saturday. I cannot wait for this game. We're going to learn so much about the Hoosiers, and hopefully it's a good thing. I think that they're good. Their offense is fast. They've got multiple weapons. You can't just key in on one guy. Rourke does a good job of not turning the football over. They're good offensively. I love their defense. Fast, physical, all those things. They rally to the ball so well. I like Indiana. I think they're going to win. I'm going to give my official prediction tomorrow. I'll deep dive it tonight. So it's going to be good, but we're going to learn a lot about Indiana on Saturday when they play against a good Nebraska Cornhuskers football team. That's the only good game at noon on Saturday. So the eyes of the entire country will be on Bloomington in that Indiana versus Nebraska game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. After that game's over, though, we got a few other good ones that are worth paying attention to. 7th-ranked Alabama goes on the road to take on Tennessee. This game has playoff implications. Whoever loses this game is going to have 2 losses and a legit chance at missing the college football playoff. Okay, so I'm very intrigued to see what that game looks like. Obviously, it's a rivalry game, so emotions are already running high. Guys want to smoke cigars after the game because that's what the winning team of that rivalry does. And so I want to see that. Plus, you throw in the fact that, whoever wins this game has a really good shot at the playoff. So that game, a lot on the line there. Michigan plays Illinois, another game with playoff implications. Illinois still looking to fight their way in, right? They're 5-1, only 1 loss on the road against Penn State. Okay, this would be a good win for them in bolstering that resume. For Michigan, look, if they win out, they'll be in the college football playoff, okay, because they're Michigan, and that's just kind of how these things work. So this is a big game for both teams. Michigan fighting for its playoff life, and Illinois probably doing the same thing. So that game's going to be a lot of fun to watch. 8th-ranked LSU plays against Arkansas. That is the night game at SEC, or in the SEC. LSU firmly in the college football playoff right now, and they're hoping to stay there. Arkansas has a chance at the playoff if they win out, which is unlikely. They've got several tough games left. Obviously, LSU Saturday, Ole Miss, Texas, Missouri, a lot of tough games, right? But they beat Tennessee last week, so we'll kind of see. Arkansas coming off a big win over Tennessee, coming off a bye as well. Meanwhile, LSU coming off of a tough win over Ole Miss. These games are always crazy. It's another rivalry. This game's going to be awesome. You should totally tune in. And then, of course, the big game, 7:30, 5th-ranked Georgia on the road, taking on first-ranked Texas. And Texas and Indiana are really similar, except that Texas is named Texas. Georgia has an opportunity to re-solidify themselves as the best team in the country, which they might be. And people love Texas right now. Everyone's jumping on this Texas bandwagon. You know, Sarkisian's great, and Quinn Ewers is cool, and Arch Manning's cool, and all that kind of stuff. But Texas, like Indiana, hasn't beaten anyone that's good. Texas's best win was either last week against Oklahoma, who's playing a true freshman quarterback and can't score against anybody, right? So that's either their best win, or their win against Michigan, who's running a 1940s offense and is incapable of completing a forward pass. Okay, I know that people love Texas. Okay, and I know that I know that people think that college football is better when Texas is good. I don't know. I kind of like it when Texas is bad and we all get to make fun of them. I personally prefer that, but hey, whatever. But let's just be honest. Like, Texas hasn't beaten anybody good. They haven't beaten anyone that's good. And people are raising questions about Indiana because of their wins, but they aren't doing the same thing for Texas. Okay. Meanwhile, Georgia has beaten good teams. Okay. They beat Clemson to start the year, and Clemson looks like one of the 10 best teams in all of college football. Okay. So I'm excited to see how this game turns out. I can't wait to listen to how, College Game Day and these different college football shows talk about Texas and Indiana. Even though they're incredibly similar, they're going to be discussed incredibly differently, right? They're going to talk about Indiana. They're going to be like, oh, like, we think they're good, but they haven't really beaten anybody and all this kind of stuff. That's what they're going to say about Indiana. And then they're going to get to Texas, and they're going to be like, this is the best team in the country, even though they haven't beaten anybody. Okay, so Georgia, Texas, that game's going to be awesome. Indiana taking on Nebraska as well. It's going to be great. Can't wait. The college football games on Saturday are going to be off the charts. Amazing. Okay. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Nebraska coming here to take on Indiana. It's great. Like college football it's in a great spot. Okay. As much as I don't like the college football playoff being 12 teams, I think it should be 6, maybe 8 at the most. Despite that, like, I just love how all of these games have meaning, right? This, early in the season, right? Like, and conference championship games, they won't matter as much, but that's fine because like last year at this time, like Nebraska and Indiana, I think people would be intrigued, but it wouldn't carry the weight that it does because the playoff has expanded. Okay. So going to be a great Saturday, plenty of great games to watch. Sunday's going to be good as well. 3 big games. Colts playing the Dolphins. Colts have a real opportunity. Let's be 4-3. Okay, because if the Colts are 4-3 heading into this tough 3-game stretch, they can win one of them, maybe 2 of them, then they'll be sitting really pretty in terms of teams that can make the playoffs, currently sitting in that 7th spot. But we don't want to be in the 7th spot. We want as good of a seeding as we can get. That way they don't have to play the Chiefs or the Bills or the Ravens. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Hopefully you had a nice time listening to the show. I'll be back on the airways tomorrow from 10 to noon. The Dan Dockett Show, the best sports show in Indiana, coming your way next from noon to 3. Download that Indy Sports Ticket app so you can listen. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in 5 minutes.